Hey yo, what's up guys, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about one-tricking in League. So first let's start off with the definition of one-trick. So a one-trick is basically the person who can only play one champion. Some people say that if you have more than 70% amount of your games on one champion and your one-trick, others say 80. That's basically up to, like, that's your own opinion on where you feel like the percentage should be before you're a one-trick. But today we're going to talk about what the pros and cons are of being a one-trick and why it potentially can be good for you to climb in solo queue. So right now we are spectating Costanza. This guy was a previous Kha'Zix main, but he transitioned into Talon jungle, and since Talon jungle got buffed, he's been climbing to basically top 10 in Challenger. So yeah, enjoy the gameplay in the background. So what are the pros of being a one-trick? The pros are that you obviously only need to learn one champion, so you'll have 5 abilities. You'll have your passive, your Q, your W, your E, and your ulti. And you'll know how much each of the things abilities will do in terms of damage. You know when to use them. And it's just a lot easier for you since you only need to learn this one champion, these 5 abilities. And then the other thing is, the only difficult part is the fact that now you need to learn all the matchups. So the matchups are obviously gonna be, some of them are gonna be difficult, but other ones are gonna be super easy. But even the ones that are difficult for you, you will still have an advantage over your opponent because you have probably played this matchup more times than your opponent has. So even though you're maybe picking into a counterpick or you got counterpick yourself, you can actually still win it simply from the knowledge that you have in this matchup over your opponent. The third thing is that you can pretty much blind pick, and this basically allows your team to have the option, if they're not a one-trick themselves, to counter pick and basically be able to pick later on and see what the enemy team comp offers, or they can pick a champion that benefits your team comp even more, because you're basically going to be picking the same champion every time, so it doesn't really matter if you pick it for first pick or if you pick it as last pick. The only difference is that if you're picking it as first pick, there's a chance that you will get counterpicked, but as I already previously mentioned, that you will have the better understanding of the matchup anyway, so you can probably still win out in this bad matchup anyway. Then another thing is that your champion can be buffed, and this is basically a massive buff for you because that's your entire champion pool is picking this one champion. Your champion can be buffed directly just by having a damage increase or cooldown decrease on abilities, but it can also be an indirect buff, which would be some of your bad matchups are getting nerfed. So other champions that counter you, those champions might get nerfed. Items that are getting buffed, and yeah, basically maybe your role gets buffed, anything like that. If that happens, then yeah, you will just be doing so much better and you will basically be climbing a lot faster, kind of like Costanza did with Talon jungle, because he's been playing it for 2 years now, but it's only this season, in season 11, that they actually buffed Talon to kind of be viable in the jungle. But the next thing is that you will be able to climb faster, and the reason why you'll be able to climb faster is because your performance should be more and more consistent the more times that you play this champion. Because if you play 10 different champions compared to one champion, you're not going to have the same performance, because there's just a lot more to take in playing 10 different champions in 10 different matchups with 10 different team comps, compared to picking the same champion into different matchups and in different team comps, but at least you know what your champion does, and that will basically allow you to pretty much have a more steady performance throughout hundreds and hundreds of games. The next thing is that you'll basically be able to peak higher. So if you are really interested in getting high elo in solo queue, having a small champion pool or even just being a one-trick is really good, because you're basically going to be peaking a lot higher, simply because of the fact that, again, you'll have a steady performance and you'll basically just most likely win more games than you lose. And if you just keep on playing, then you'll just keep on climbing until you eventually reach that peak, which is probably gonna be higher than you playing multiple different champions and having multiple different win rates on. So yeah, you will most likely also just peak higher overall. Then the last thing is that you can carry games harder And this basically means that if you are ahead, you pretty much know how much damage your champion does. So you can pretty much always not even do a trade, but basically just get one kill and then get out again. Simply because you know the damage output, so you know that you have kill pressure on your opponent right now. And you're not gonna fail as many times, like jumping in accidentally or expecting that you have more damage than you actually do. So you're just gonna be avoiding a lot of unnecessary deaths when you're actually going in, because most likely you already know what the outplay is basically gonna look like before you even do it. So these were all the good things for being a one trick, but there are also some downsides of being a one trick. So the first one is that your enemy can pick your champion, and this basically sucks because if you can literally only play that one champion, you're forced to dodge. The second thing is the enemy team can ban your champion, and this will especially happen in higher elo. So if you actually do end up getting high elo, you will probably get target banned, especially if you're more known and you literally can only play this one champion, then your champion will get banned out. On top of the fact that if you get into a champion select and somebody dodges, then you probably have to re-queue, but maybe even wait a few minutes before re-queuing, because in the next champion select, the chance of your champion getting banned is just a lot higher than the first lobby that you got into. The third thing is that the champion that you're gonna pick might not fit your team comp. Let's say you're playing an AD champion and your entire team picked AD. You can't really play a champion that's AP because you can only play your one trick. So that pretty much sucks, so now you're forced to play full AD, and that's pretty bad depending on the enemy team comp, and that could result in you again having to dodge. The fourth thing is the fact that you can't counterpick. So if you are last pick or at least late pick, you are not really gonna get the advantage in a matchup of having the counterpick, because you're gonna pick the same champion no matter if you pick first or if you pick last. So you don't have that option to counter your opponent and basically have an easy time with an easy matchup. The fifth thing kinda is the same as the first three, but basically that you're forced to dodge. So if you're a player that hates dodging and will never dodge in your entire life, even though you should, one trick is just not the way to go for you. Because the games where you're not playing a one trick, you're most likely just going to lose, or at least you're gonna be relying a lot more on your team compared to when you are playing a one trick. So this shouldn't be a problem for people actually serious about climbing, but if you don't like dodging, one tricking is just not the way to go, because there will be many games that you're simply gonna have to dodge just because of you being a one trick. There are also other reasons why you would have to dodge, and I already have a different video on that topic, but being a one trick essentially will lead to more dodges than not being a one trick. Then the next question is a question that I actually get asked quite a lot, and that is basically, aren't you getting bored of playing the same champion? So the more you play your one champion, you might eventually hit like a wall of where it's starting to get boring. There can be many reasons for that. It could be you're just on a losing streak, or your motivation is kind of like not the same, or you're just bored for different reasons. And then people are asking, why don't I get bored of playing just one champion? So in my opinion, if you're picking a champion that you really enjoy, then you're not gonna become bored. It's pretty much whatever you end up doing in your life. As long as you're enjoying it, you shouldn't get bored because of it. If you wanna become a professional in anything, it could be another sport, it could be business, it could be economics, it could be engineering, it could be whatever you want to do. You should be enjoying it. You should be doing it because you enjoy it, and that way you're not really gonna get bored. So if you're getting bored, then maybe it's not the right champion or maybe the right role that you're playing, because you should be enjoying the fact that it should pretty much be easy for you to do the stuff that you're gonna be doing throughout solo queue, like in terms of climbing and outplays and stuff like that. It should be easy for you compared to other players who are playing many more champions. They're making it a little bit more difficult for themselves. But I will admit that sometimes I have been bored of playing only one champion, and some solutions that are for being bored of playing one champion is create a Smurf account where you play more champions. or simply take a break, or simply go in and play normal games, or ARAM or Earth or anything that has nothing to do with ranked, and then basically play other stuff and enjoy the league through that. And then once you feel like you had enough of fun, then go back into ranked and start tryharding again with your one trick. That is basically the best solution that I have. Or just take a break. That's also an ability. Then the next thing is you're basically limited to how much you can improve, and this all depends on what champion you're playing, but it also limits you in the fact that you won't really have as much knowledge as some other players, simply because you only have knowledge from one perspective of your one champion into other champions. So when it comes to team fighting or maybe doing macro, then if you haven't played the other champions, then you might not get their point of view, and then that can basically lead to you not improving as much, because maybe some other champions will basically be stronger than what your champion is doing, and if you're playing those champions instead or picking them in certain situations, then you would basically be able to climb even higher and peak even higher. So the next thing is that you won't have a big chance of playing in competitive, and this is pretty obvious that if you can literally only play one champion and you're known for only playing one champion, then the chance of you playing in a competitive setting is basically gonna be very, very small. But there are a bunch of players even at the top, even in LEC and LCK and LPL, that have been one tricks very recently, or even till this day will basically say that they're one trick still. So we have Adam in Fnatic. He has basically been known to pretty much only play Darius, but since then he has expanded to a few more, but even still now his champion pool is very, very small. And then we have people like Canyon. Canyon has previously said that he pretty much said that he was a Graves one trick, at least for in solo queue. Maybe in competitive he picks more champions, but basically in solo queue, last season or a few seasons back, he really enjoyed just playing Graves and pretty much only wanted to play Graves. So it doesn't mean that you have no chance of playing in competitive, because the good thing about being a one trick is the fact that you will basically peak higher, and that will give you more recognition, but then you will need to probably get a Smurf account that has a bigger champion pool and try and get that account up to the same elo as your main account. Basically like say like, I can play other stuff, but I prefer in solo queue just to play my one trick, because that gives me the biggest chance of winning and it will basically make me peak the highest. The last thing that is negative about being a one trick is that if you end up getting high elo, you will more or less be known, and people will say that being known is good and being famous is pretty good, but in League of Legends it's pretty bad because people can target ban you, and there are many different ways that they can do this. They can basically ban you the champion right after a champion select is dodged, so you're forced to wait. They can permanently check your op.gg and press live game and check whenever you finished a game, and then as soon as you're done finishing a game, they will queue up at the same time and try to ban you out. And yeah, there are basically just a lot of people that will just target ban your one trick, which again leads to you dodging and basically you gonna be playing less games. So some other tips in terms of climbing in the solo queue ladder. In my opinion, the best things is not being one trick. Being one trick is great, but it's not the very best thing that you can do. I would say being a one trick is better than playing 10 different champions when it comes to climbing in solo queue. But the best amount of champions that you can have in order to climb is 3 champions. If you have 3 champions, the chance of you getting banned out are very, very, very small. You can benefit your team comp more because you have a few more champions that you can play, and now you can suddenly counter pick in a few more situations. And when it comes to you blind picking, you will still be pretty strong because you're pretty comfortable on the 3 champions that you're playing. On top of that, you should only play one role, so those 3 champions that you do end up playing should basically only be played in the same role. And then duo queue, if you're below masters, literally just duo queue, find a good duo that you have good synergy with. It makes it so much more fun and enjoyable, because as soon as you hit masters, duo queue is not available, and yeah, it's pretty much just gonna be miserable, to be honest, if you've been playing solo queue the entire time. The last thing is dodging. So dodging is almost an essential in order to climb, because there's simply some games that will be unwinnable in champion select. So before the game even starts, the chance of you losing could be 80, 90, even 95%. And the only way that you could possibly win is if entire enemy team DCs or something. So yeah, you're basically gonna be dodging quite a bit if you end up playing a lot. So this is in order to climb the solo queue ladder. If you wanna climb the competitive ladder, it's a bit different. So the first thing you wanna do is get a high solo queue rank. So get challenger, people will start recognizing you, you'll be playing with pro players, they will recognize you, and start building your network through knowing more people. So basically, get challenger and start talking to different people just in a friendly way, like don't be toxic, because that's just gonna slow your progress of having a chance in competitive. So as soon as you get to challenger, then create a second account. You can even do it before you get your account to challenger. Create a second account that has a slightly bigger champion pool, and when people are then gonna be looking at your account or asking like what's your champion pool looking like, then you can basically show a different account that is probably gonna be slightly lower rated but has a bigger champion pool, and say that you can play more champions, and that way you will benefit to a competitive team more, and it will make more sense for you to join a competitive team. And then the way that competitive ladders usually work is that you start in a low league. So basically start playing for not any team, definitely take the best offer that you do get, but don't expect for you to get paid right away, because there are quite a bunch of people, especially in the lower divisions, who don't get paid. And if they do get paid, they only get paid like from the prize pool. So start playing in low divisions and then do as best as you can, preferably like join the best team that can win you the most amount of games, or even qualify into a higher division. And then yeah, basically like as soon as you're performing well in the different divisions, then more people would look at you. And then hopefully by the time that you played one splitter for 1 year, then you will get basically a better contract the next year, and then throughout that you will basically climb the competitive ladder that way. So that's basically how to climb in solo queue and how to climb in competitive, and the benefits and the downsides of being one trick, as well as the best method in order to climb in solo queue. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.